when we were thinking about creating an app for the queer community, specifically gay, bisexual, and queer men, we looked at what was out there and noticed that a lot of the biggest players were launched over a decade ago. There hasn't been a lot of innovation within the dating space as it pertains to queer men. So we noticed a white space.
Hello, my LGBTQTs, and welcome back to another episode of A Jaded Gay. I'm Rob Lovelace, and today I am a non-jaded gay because I had a nice little beach day yesterday. I actually went down to LBI to see some family. Great day. It's really nice being in Philly because it's only like a 2-hour drive from there, so got down there no problem, enjoyed the sun, laid out on the beach for a bit. Did not go into the ocean because it was still pretty cold in the water there and I was a little bit of a baby, but really enjoyed the day. It was just kind of a nice Sunday fun day, a nice way to decompress before starting another work week. So really enjoyed it, hoping to get back to the beach again soon. But today I am here with you because I have a very exciting, very special episode for you all today. I hope you're excited. We have a very special guest on the show today here to talk to us about a new gay dating app, which I'm really excited to tell you all about. You know, we've kind of talked about this in past episodes. I've used dating apps in the past. I know most gay men have used them, and it can be kind of tough because people are on there looking for different things. It could be hard to find your community. You could feel like an outlier, and it's also sometimes not great for mental health. So we're going to be diving into all that today. But before we do, you know the drill, tarot time. So for this episode, we pulled the Seven of Wands, which is a minor arcana card. So this is more of like the little work that we should be doing on a daily basis. So that way we can build up to the bigger and better things in life. And Wands is tied to the element of fire. So that's typically symbolic of passion, creativity, and sometimes sexuality. And it's masculine energy, so it's very action oriented. And in numerology, the number 7 represents strategy, planning, and taking inspired action. So this card typically indicates that we might be feeling defensive, especially when we're experiencing an unforeseen challenge that's getting in the way of our goals. And while it may be easy to act emotionally and defensively, we actually need to be strategic and to be assertive in how we handle these challenges. And typically, listening to our intuition will be a huge help in figuring out what our strategy is for asserting ourselves. So, you know, if you're trying to do something and somebody kind of has their own opinion or they critique you or criticize you for it, it's easy to just kind of have like, you know, a snarky comeback, say something maybe rude, acting emotionally and acting defensively, but that's actually going to be counterintuitive to what we're trying to achieve because that's kind of like the easy way out. Sure, you might feel good in the moment, but it's not going to come to any resolution. It's just going to cause more of a strain between you and that person. So you really want to think through strategically about how best to communicate yourself, how to assert yourself to defuse that challenge you're experiencing. And when we're looking at this card in the scope of dating or a relationship, you know, it's easy to kind of mute ourselves, water down our personalities, and try to mold ourselves to fit someone else's expectations when we're trying to impress them. But the problem is when we do that, we're not showing them our authentic selves. So we may end up with someone who doesn't appreciate our authentic self instead of testing the waters and being vulnerable to find that person who truly compliments us. So this card is reminding us the importance of speaking up, advocating for our own needs, and also being willing to hear our partner's needs. And you know, that's not always easy because it takes courage to be vulnerable. But if we're going to find our person, we're going to have to take some risks and put ourselves out there, even though it might feel uncomfortable. Because in the end, it's better to be rejected by someone who's not the right fit for you than try to force yourself to be a certain version of yourself to appease someone else. Because when you do that, you just risk losing yourself and you're going to feel lonely in that relationship. So definitely some sage wisdom to chew on as we go through this episode, something to keep in mind. But without any further ado, I'm really excited to bring our guest on for today. So he is the Director of Brand Marketing and Communications at Archer, this brand new gay dating app. He's been featured in a variety of media outlets like the New York Times, Forbes, NBC News, and CNN. And as a gay man himself, he knows firsthand the shame and secrecy that can accompany queer dating. So with all that said, I'm very excited to introduce Michael Kaye. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Very excited to have you on and talk about Archer. But before we get into that, can you actually just kick off by just telling us a little bit about yourself, how you identify, pronouns, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, my name is Michael Kaye. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the director of brand marketing and communications at Archer. If you ask me to talk about myself, I'm a Capricorn, so I have to just talk about work. It's just my thing.
And I like to ask all my guests this: are you a jaded or non-jaded gay today?
Ooh, I don't think I'm a jaded gay today.
Always good to hear. Let's get right into it then. So today we're talking about Archer, which is a new gay dating app. Before we get into that, all its key features and how awesome it is, can you tell us a little bit about your personal experiences with dating as a gay man and the dating app culture?
Yes, absolutely. So I was actually closeted for well over 20 years. I didn't come out of the closet till after I graduated from college. So for me, gay dating apps were the first entry point for me to the LGBTQIA plus community. And this is back in 2014. And the gay dating apps that I had available that I turned to really reinforced this idea that queer love and queer connection should remain hidden. You know, I was not comfortable yet with my own identity, but I was exploring gay dating apps. And when I opened them up, I saw a lot of blank profiles, black squares, torso photos. I didn't really see the people behind these names or usernames. And it made me feel as though, even within my own community, I had to really remain hidden. And it forced me to turn to mainstream dating apps, which were predominantly used by straight people. But that is actually where I felt most comfortable. So I know we'll talk about this later, but that was a lot of the thought process behind Archer and how can we help change gay dating culture and create a dating app for today's daters because a lot has changed in the past 10 years.
Absolutely. And you know what you're telling me there it really resonates with me because actually 2014 is when I kind of came to terms a little bit more with my sexuality. First time I downloaded a gay dating app, I downloaded Grindr because I thought it was like the gay eHarmony. I'd heard it mentioned before, but I also wasn't out at that time. It was just kind of like to dabble to get an idea of dating. And in my head, I had this idea of like the Hallmark, rom-com date, but then you're on Grindr where it's like you said, a lot of blank profiles or, torso pictures. And it, like you said, it adds that sense of secrecy. And then there's also not a lot of like intimacy in terms of just getting to know somebody, basic names, just conversational things like that. It's all somewhat transactional almost, it feels, in certain apps like that. And I think we have come a long way, the mainstream apps, and kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but I think the mainstream apps have gotten a little bit better about being more inclusive to people, even just beyond, gay or straight. Now there's more inclusivity with gender identity, sexuality, all that. So it's getting to be a better space. But just over the past 10 years, there's a lot of, hardships, I think, going through some of those dating scenarios early on when you're trying to figure out yourself, where you fit into this gay dating culture, and then, all the intricacies that go along with that. So that being said, tell us about Archer.
Yeah, so Archer is a social first dating app for gay, bisexual, and queer men. And we're offering multiple discovery modes. So we know that gay daters are very used to grid views. So we're actually offering you two different grid views. You can do a zoomed in view or a zoomed out view, depending on how many profiles you really want to see at a time. But if you're not really a grid person, that's great. We are also going to give you a linear layout, which has more robust profiles, a ton more photos. You can actually add over 20 photos to your profile on Archer. But what's different about us, and it's the part that I get most excited about, is that every single profile has mandatory selfie verified profile photos. So what that means is there's a lot of dating apps out there that are doing selfie verification, which we think is amazing. How ours is different is that when you upload your first profile photo, which has to be your main photo, it has to show your face. And that is what we selfie verify, meaning no more catfishes, no more grids of blank profiles or torso photos. You will only see a grid or linear layout of smiling faces on Archer or people smizing. You don't have to smile if that's not your thing, but you will always see someone's face. And that's really because we know that gay dating has really evolved from a place of anonymity and secrecy to celebration.
And I think you kind of touched upon this in your answer there, but can you tell us where the idea of Archer came from and kind of how it evolved from the gay dating apps of yesteryear to what we have today?
Yeah, so Archer is part of Match Group. And when we were thinking about creating an app for the queer community, specifically gay, bisexual, and queer men, we looked at what was out there and noticed that a lot of the biggest players were launched over a decade ago. There hasn't been a lot of innovation within the dating space as it pertains to queer men. So we noticed a white space. And then when we decided to move forward with creating what would become Archer, we wanted to create an app for today's daters, which are very different. We're targeting Gen Z and millennials, and the queer daters that we see today behave in a very different way than daters were 10, 15 years ago. So we had to create an app that reflected that. Some of that means that we are recognizing that queer men are turning to dating apps for many different reasons. Why they're on our app is a little bit fluid. It could be for a casual hookup, it could be for a relationship, but it could also be because they want to find friends, they want to build a community, they want to find their chosen family. So when we thought about Archer and what it was going to become, we wanted to blend a dating app with a social media app because we know young daters are content creators, they are digital natives. There's a lot of tools and features that you see on social media apps that come naturally to this cohort. So we wanted to create a space where you could really find whatever type of relationship you're looking for, whether that's romantic or platonic or whatever it is. So besides all those dating features that we all are very much used to, on Archer, you will also be able to create content. So you'll be able to add ephemeral content like photos, stories. You'll eventually be able to go live on the platform, which I'm really excited for that to launch. You'll also be given tools to help you find a community and build a network of friends. So that includes things like group chat, for example, where you can talk to multiple people at once and make brunch plans or plans to go hiking or for a run, whatever it is.
And I love that you talked about how, queer men utilize dating apps for a variety of reasons, and Archer's trying to be inclusive to all that, platonic, romantic, what be it. Because for myself personally, I moved to Philadelphia a few months ago, and it's really tough making friends as an adult. I mean, you're balancing work and everything else going on. You want to go out to meet people and like-minded people, but you don't really know where to turn. And even though there are apps in the past that do have, people could be on there for dating or friends, some of those apps I still feel just kind of like an underlying feeling that while you could be on there for friendship, there might be leaning a little bit more towards something maybe more physical, let's say. So I like that Archer's really kind of trying to address all queer men, whatever they're looking for, and can be a safe for dating, a space for platonic friends, what be it. So with that said, where did the name Archer come from?
So for us, this is a little bit cheesy, but it's what we like to say that, the name and the journey to land on the name Archer was always forward, never straight. We, for anyone who works in marketing or communications, if you've ever gone through a naming exercise or verbal identity, you'll understand that it's not a quick process. It actually spanned 2 quarters for us. And we reviewed hundreds of names formally and even more names informally. So texting name ideas to each other, slacking names ideas to each other. But Archer struck us and it really stuck. And after we heard Archer for the first time, it was really hard for us to get excited about another name. So for us, Archer is proud and it's evocative and alluring. When we think about archers, we think of people who always hit their target, whether they're aiming for friends or fun or finding the one. So for us, once Archer came into our universe, it was almost impossible to forget Archer.
So taking it back to, how you kind of your team constructed Archer, what were some common issues you had heard from queer men prior to that they had with other gay dating apps that you really wanted to improve for Archer?
Yeah, it was a lot of the issues that I mentioned earlier that I faced when turning to dating apps. A lot of people were really tired of a platform that allowed for blank profiles and people to really hide behind who they are. That was something that people really disliked. Another thing that we heard of, which you actually mentioned from your own experience, was that they aren't only looking for hookups and they aren't only looking for long-term relationships. A lot of people had just moved to New York City that we talked to, and they wanted an app where they can also find their friends and their community. And that really reinforced what we wanted Archer to become anyway. Um, and I think the main thing that people were talking about was that there really is no one way to be gay. They wanted a app that celebrated who they were, what their identity was, whether that involves, them being really athletic and loving volleyball and looking for other people who do that as well, or they love dressing up and they're always watching RuPaul's Drag Race on the weekends and that's what they're looking for too. So we really wanted a space that reflected all the different types of queer men that we see, because we do understand and recognize that this is such a diverse and eclectic and colorful community. So we wanted to make sure that whoever you are and whatever you're looking for, you feel really welcomed and safe when you come to Archer.
And when you're talking through some of those challenges, I'm sure something as a result of that is that those issues can negatively impact mental health within the queer dating space. Was that something you either experienced yourself or heard a lot of from when you talked to the people in the queer community about building Archer?
Absolutely. So a lot of people went into building Archer beyond just the Archer team, which from a product perspective, the product is actually led by a gay man. From a marketing perspective, it's led by a gay man, which is me. Data science is also led by a gay man. And there's a lot of LGBTQ plus people who went into this and even more truly incredible allies. But beyond that, we actually wound up interviewing over 1,200 queer men as we set out to build Archer. We then spoke with a portion of those people more intimately. We had over 200 queer men participate in our beta program this past spring. I built a group of what I call our community advocates, which are a group of queer men in New York City. And you hear New York a lot because that's where we're launching and that's where we're headquartered. We'll obviously be available to everyone across the nation in time and then even more countries by next year. But we are launching the New York City area to start. And then we also partnered with GLAAD, one of the largest LGBTQ plus advocacy groups, and they've been an incredible partner. And the reason behind all of this is we wanted to make sure that everyone had a seat at the table, everyone's voice was heard. But I think what excites me most about this whole process and how many people we involved is that when I first saw the presentation deck internally of what we wanted Archer to become in summer of 2022, that is almost identical to what is being launched or what has just launched in June 2023 this summer. So it just reinforces that what we had set out to create, what we thought the market needed, what we thought this community really was desperate for, is actually what they really wanted through these hours and hours and months long conversation with all these people within our community. So there's been a lot of people who have been involved in this process.
That's awesome. And I'm glad to see that there's, authentic representation at the table in those conversations, the partnership with GLAAD, because I think in the past, and not just specifically with dating apps, but whether it's pride campaigns, media representation, what have you, I think the intentions are good, but you don't necessarily have the right people in the room to give the true perspectives. So there might be some unique challenges or perspectives that somebody from the LGBTQ plus community has that can really positively impact a project like that. But if you're not having them in the room, it's going to kind of fall flat for the full launch. So I love that you said, how many people are involved to make sure it's an inclusive, authentic app for queer men. So with that being said, getting right into it, can you tell us what using Archer is like?
Yeah. So when you create a profile on Archer, you will fill out multiple filters on your profile. So basically, to helping us understand what exactly you're looking for. Of course, photos are a big piece of this. So you will have to go through selfie verification, which we've all been joking about internally. That um, it's kind of different. It's a very different experience from the other apps that feel like you upload and you're good to go within 30 seconds. We make you work a little bit because we want to make sure that, every profile is verified. Everyone's, putting their best foot forward. So you can actually upload up to 21 photos on your profile. Of course, your face needs to be your main photo, but you can upload lifestyle photos if you want. So it's a very content heavy app, which I think is a little bit unique for this space. And, again, brings in that idea that we are a social first dating app. There will be tags on your profile, which I'm excited about. So for people like you who just moved to a new city and are looking for people who have similar interests and hobbies, tags are going to be a great feature for you because you can find other people who, I mean, if it was me, I'd be looking for other Potterheads or Swifties on Archer, and tags would really help me find those like-minded people. And then again, it's a very make your own journey. So there is a button at top that you can slide back and forth, and that's where you'll be able to choose the views that you want. So whether that's the zoomed out view, grid view, or the zoomed in grid view, or the linear layout, and that's really what helps us give you the tools to figure out if you're looking for friends or if you're looking for fun or if you're trying to find the one. So that's sort of how the experience is going to be a little bit different, and that's sort of what you'll be able to do at this time on Archer. And then as the months go on, different features will roll out. So a lot of those social features you'll start to see pop up, like being able to upload ephemeral content. After being able to upload photos and stories, you'll eventually be able to go live on the platform. I mentioned the group chat feature. There's also going to be an IRL safety feature because we know safety is really important to anybody on dating apps, but especially the queer community. So if you are meeting up with someone, we'll make it easy for you to share your location with others and say, hey, I'm going to meet up with Jason, and here's where we're going. And I just want you to know where I'm at before, during, and after the date. So we're leaning really heavily into safety from the beginning. We are working with the nonprofit organization RAIN to make it really easy for you to report any behavior or content violations, and making it easy for you to help us to reprimand those people as well. So that's sort of what you'll be able to do on Archer at the beginning, with many more features to come over the next year.
That's awesome, especially the safety piece, because I know that is, a big one for any time. I mean, online dating in general, even my straight friends, have texted me, say, hey, I'm going out with this person, because it is still at the end of the day, essentially a stranger at that point. But especially within, the lens of queer men, I think it's nice to have that feature within there. So that way you kind of let people know the location or, who you're going out with. That way, not only for themselves, but for others on the app can protect themselves if there is a potential issue. Hopefully, get that profile taken down or whatever. But between that and, the tags and, the social content, it really sounds like Archer's trying to put like the community first within this.
Absolutely. I think that's what people got most excited about. So besides all those interviews that I mentioned and the other research pieces that we did prior, we also invited people to our literal office to get product demos of Archer. So there were a couple of evenings in our office where our content creators came in, or our group of community advocates came in, or our friends and family came in, and They got to experience the product. They even got to look at our marketing plans. And we gave them the opportunity to say, this is what we built. This is how we're going to market it. But we want to hear your opinions. Is this resonating with you? Is this a feature that you like? Is this a bar you go to? So it really did feel like, obviously we had to do a lot of the work, but it did feel like the whole community was really part of bringing Archer to life.
And I know too, you said, there's some future tools coming out the next year. And I think one of those that you're planning on later introducing is an in-app health hub, which is going to be a digital center designed to provide access to medical and mental health resources. So can you tell us a little bit more about that and other future tools to expect?
Absolutely. And what's really exciting about that is that's actually going to be available on day one. So the Health Hub is a feature that I know I say everything excites us, but this really does excite us. We're just really excited for Archer. But the Health Hub is going to include advice and tips from queer men who work in or focus on things like sexual health, public health, dating and relationships, mental health. So we are bringing in all the different experts from all these different areas to provide easy resources for our daters. We will also provide resources on testing sites and other sexual health resources, which admittedly I had no idea about any of these things when I was first coming out of the closet. So we really want to make sure that this is a incredible resource for all of our users, and to make sure that we're really promoting this content. We'll also be repurposing all this advice and tips and resources on our social channels as well, to make sure we're getting everyone's eyeballs on it and really just sharing the wealth here.
And also looking to the future, I know you said you plan to continue working with GLAAD, partnering with them to make sure this app remains inclusive. So can you tell us a little bit more about that partnership, some of the conversations that have been had, and what the future looks like with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So GLAAD has been an incredible partner. They are an amazing, amazing organization that we brought in early on. So they went through the entire product flow. They looked at all our different features. They got to look at the entire profile. They got to look at all our messaging, how we were talking about this app from a product perspective to a branding perspective to a safety and security perspective. They've met with our team. They've come into our office. They've spoken to our chief product officer. And we've really had such a collaborative relationship with them leading up to launch. And there's so much that we would not have been able to get done without them for support. And we really do look forward to continuing this process in the future and making sure that they are involved in what Archer becomes tomorrow and the day after. So they really do feel like part of our team.
That's awesome. And I feel like I'm always referencing GLAAD in my podcast episodes from like either research they've done or a report they've published. So I'm really glad to hear that they're involved in this, because I think it's a really great initiative. From everything you've been mentioning, it sounds like a completely innovative new app compared to anything that's been out there. But with that being said, what would you say, and I'm sure it's hard to limit it to just one, but what would you say, in your opinion, is the biggest differentiator compared to the other gay dating apps? And why would you have gay men use Archer instead of another app? Like, what would you tell them to try it out for?
From a feature perspective, the biggest difference is going to be the profile photo selfie verification, making sure that everyone who comes to Archer and who you see is actually who they are. But I think the best part of it is that the way it's been built and the way the product has been designed, it truly is a make your own journey and a fit for no matter what type of relationship that you are looking for. So I think we did a really incredible job at making sure that if you're looking for something casual, if you're looking for hookups, that's totally okay with us. And we're giving you the tools to do so. Or if you're moving to a new city and you're just looking for friends and you want to find your community, that we're giving you the tools to do that as well. Or if you're in a rural city where there's not many LGBTQ plus people, that you can open Archer and find your chosen family. So I think the product team under Marcus Lofthouse, which is our chief product officer, did an incredible job at understanding the breadth and depth of who queer men are and who makes up that demographic of this community, and creating an app that truly does fit all their needs.
And what dating tips would you give to queer men, especially as it relates to dating app culture?
I would say that if you're going to be turning to a dating app, especially as a queer man, that you're doing so at a time where you feel comfortable and confident in yourself. And this goes beyond queer men too. You have to be in the right mindset to date. People always get surprised when I tell them, you should probably not be on a dating app right now, or you should delete your apps for a little bit. Because if you are not bringing positivity to the process, you're going to attract negativity, and it's not going to be a good experience for anybody involved. So I always say, really, with everything, that you always have to come to this with the right mindset, a positive mindset. And when you need a break, you know yourself best, take a break. I love doing so many things. I love reading. I love cycling. I love running. But guess what? I take a break from all those things. I love going out with my friends. I take a break from them as well. So listen to your mind, listen to your body, and, trust your gut. If you're not in it and if you're not interested in doing it right now, that's okay. We're always going to be there for you when you are ready.
And kind of just closing out on the episode, what would you say to anyone who's listening to this episode who's curious about Archer, maybe wants to give it a try, but they're feeling burnt out by past dating app experiences, so they might be a little hesitant?
Yeah, I would say we hear you. We've all been there. I definitely have been there. And this app was created by people who understand that fatigue and that frustration and those challenges. And it was created by a bunch of people who wanted to solve those problems for you. So I would say, give it a chance. It's completely free. You have nothing to lose. So give Archer a shot. See if you are finding fun or finding the one or finding friends. And if it's not for you, there are other options out there too. And, that's okay with us as well.
And connecting it back to the tarot, today we pulled the Seven of Wands. It's kind of indicating that we might be, defensive or, hesitant about certain situations, but really kind of going back to what you mentioned about with, sometimes feeling burnt out from an app or taking time off of it. We need to check in with our intuition to see what we need in that moment to help us kind of create that action plan, strategize, and take that inspired action forward to get to what we want to. And especially when it comes to a romantic relationship, if you're looking to use, Archer or a dating app for actual dating, you need to be able to take the risk of being a little bit vulnerable. It might feel uncomfortable, but speak up for yourself and what you want, and make sure you're also hearing the people you're talking to on the app to make sure it's not a one-sided conversation, that you're both receptive to each other's, thoughts, wants, needs. And, even though it might be a little scary to do that, honestly, it can have a really amazing, result, whether it's friendship or relationship, what be it. It's just a great, community builder out there. So thank you again for joining, Michael, today. This was great. Was there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to add in about Archer yourself?
No, I think we covered a lot. I would just say, for anyone who downloads Archer, please feel free to DM me if you have any feedback. If you have dating and relationships questions, I'm more than happy to be a resource for you moving forward, but would love to hear about your experience.
Awesome. And can you tell everyone where they can find you and how they can access Archer as well?
Yes, Archer is available right now in the App Store and Google Play, or anywhere that you download apps. We are also at Archer Dating on Instagram and TikTok, and I am at Michael Kaye PR on Instagram. So again, happy to answer any questions or just listen to you vent.
And I will include all that information in the episode description so you can get in touch with Michael, download Archer, try it out for yourself. I'm sure it's going to be great. It sounds really exciting and innovative, so I'm really eager to see the response to the community that everybody has. Hopefully they make a lot of great friends and beyond on there. For everyone listening, you know the drill as well. You can find the podcast on Instagram, TikTok, SoundCloud, and YouTube at A Jaded Gay Pod. You can contact me, Rob at ajadedgay.com. You can also follow me personally on Instagram at Rob_Loveless. Also consider supporting the podcast on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at A Jaded Gay Pod. And remember, every day is all we have, so you got to make your own happiness. Bye.